Welcome to Kink Geek with your hosts, Step and Tams.
We're here to take a nerd's eye view of everything from sexuality to pop culture and whatever we hit along the way.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a real good time.
Hello, lovely listeners.
Hi, how's it going?
See, I gave you plenty of time there to jump in. So
yeah, I see.
that you didn't feel left out or shut out of the conversation between us and our listeners.
That's true.
Welcome to episode 87 of Kink Geek. We are here again this week through all of the myriad trials.
Ongoing craziness, yep.
Almost didn't make it, what with the internet not quite working yet, and dogs you might hear barking in the background, and work issues and finding work issues and all that fun stuff that we'll get into in just a moment. But first, I wanted to mention at the top of the show our Patreon. Mm-hmm. This show is supported by you lovely listeners out there who find it valuable and find us a joyful part of your life. And if anyone out there feels like giving a little something back to the show, even if that's just $1 one time or $1 a month or whatever you want to spend on a good free podcast.
And you can cancel at any time.
Mm-hmm. You could go and check out our Patreon at patreon.com/kinkgeek. And there you'll find all the patron bonuses as well as the feed of all the show, which are available, to everyone. Mm-hmm. But being a patron gets you just a little bit extra.
Yeah, our content will always be free, but we do believe in coming up with creative ways to say thank you for helping make us stronger. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, don't forget that you can always find us on social media at Geeks of Kink on Twitter or Facebook/geeksofkink. We also have a website. You can check in the links down below.
Mm-hmm. Or even a FetLife group now.
We do have a FetLife group. We're both going to be jumping in at some point over the next week or so.
Anytime now.
to talk, but it's
just
all set up.
Just as soon as the internet's set up here at our new location.
Yeah, which will be Saturday, which is exciting. So we love to hear from you, so please feel free to reach out and talk to us and let us know what you'd like to hear, what you like, what's going on in your lives, stuff like that.
Any improvement strategies you might have and want to share?
Yeah.
Because we are looking at changing our format a little bit or revamping, making it easier to listen to, putting it on more platforms, and also just looking at ways to improve the show and the experience for our listeners.
But don't panic. You're going to get the same kooky goofiness that you've always enjoyed, and you're going to get the same, not same information. Obviously, it's always different, but you'll be getting the same
quality.
Same quality, and we're going to be doing the same genre, all the same stuff. We just want to make things better and tighter and be able to, I guess, interact more with you guys. Yeah,
that's the main focus of setting up the FetLife group. Mm-hmm. And we're adding some new and exciting and interesting content, hopefully.
Yes, I think one thing we can mention is we're looking to go back to adding a live show. Mm-hmm. Like, we'd done that for almost a year, I think, when we were with another network. And I really enjoyed being able to talk to people in the chat while we were doing the show. And we have the ability to do that with where we are now. So I think we're going to be looking to do that.
So if anyone out there in our listenership would like that or has any suggestions as to a time slot for that to be, where it would be easy to jump into the chat or onto Twitter and talk to us while we're doing it, while we're going on live, let us know. And you can reach us at all the places we've previously stated and more. So check the show notes and you'll find all of our links. But now, let's talk a little bit about how things have been going on. Mm-hmm. So how have you been, Tams?
Tired. I'm so tired.
That happens when you move.
Well, it wasn't just that happens when I move. You went and helped our roommate move on the weekend.
Oh yeah, that was this past weekend. Mm-hmm. Boy, time has been just flying.
So we are totally out of the old place.
Yeah, you know what? A friend had a really good idea for moving the next time. They said, this is someone else who was there to help our friend move. They were like, so all the people who have helped us move over the years, when it comes time to move us again, we're going to go to them and say, hey, you want to help us move? And they're going to say, yeah. And then we're going to say, cool, you want to give us $20 instead and we'll hire movers?
Then you can just have a pizza and beer party.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I thought that was pretty good.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. So the house is starting to look...
Yeah, we should really look toward a housewarming.
Yeah.
It's going to be a magic-themed housewarming.
Absolutely. So that will be fun. Things are settling in really well. We still have to put stuff on the wall.
That's the one major thing that we have left. And that's the one thing that we never did at our old house because we just got too busy. Was hang art. Like, we hung a couple of pieces, but I think now is the time when we start running out of steam for actual, improving now that things are livable. And, like, I still have some work to do in my office, which is going to happen. Hey, I unpacked 2 whole boxes yesterday.
I know. That's good.
But yeah, art on the walls is going to be a major thing.
Well, we have it down on the schedule for Friday, so
cool.
Hopefully we'll get there. The only thing has been Salem. Now, he seems to be doing a little better. I think we discussed how crotchety he's been lately.
You mean Salem the Draft Cat? You should go and find him on Instagram.
Yes, you should follow him on Instagram. He would love to see all of your pictures, too. So he's lonely is the problem.
Yeah.
And he goes running around looking for his friends. You came home smelling like Enigma and Nietzsche, and he's so unhappy. And it's funny because Solitaire, our roommate, he sent me a link, I didn't tell you this last week, to the fact that Saturday they were having a cat rescue open house. And I'm like, oh, haha, LOL. Well, then he spoke to me this week, and he's like, well, I sent you the thing. I said, we don't have the money to have another cat. He goes, oh, I don't know why I'm such a dummy. I never thought the fact that they actually charge to adopt. And I'm like, yeah, they do. And that's a good thing.
Is it?
Absolutely. It's not a crazy amount. But, I mean, they cover all of the shots and all of that stuff. But here's the thing. When an animal is free, when you can just go to a place and grab something for free, for some people it's not going to matter because there are those of us who place a very high value on animals. But when you don't have to pay for them, it makes them much more disposable for those who are spontaneously going, oh hey, let's just grab.
About pets as property.
Yeah. So for me to have to, for people to have to pay, it means they really want the animal and they're more likely to put the care into them. So, yeah. So I said, you know what? It's not something we're looking to do. If 2 years from now something falls into our lap, cool.
Yeah.
But Step got him some catnip last night, so he played with that a little bit.
I got offered a cat today.
Did you? From who?
I got offered Franklin by party who shall remain nameless. But
listen, party who shall remain nameless. Don't be teasing, because I would take him in a heartbeat. I don't know that she listens.
But other party who shall remain nameless metaphorically whapped her over the head for even offering.
Considering it. Yeah, it's a cute cat.
And I thought, he'd enjoy a friend, and it's not something that we're going to be able to avoid forever, but he seems to be settling in. So it's on and off. So hopefully. Hey, he didn't bite anyone last night.
That's true. Now, to be fair, he doesn't bite as in viciously bite. He love nips. If you're petting him a lot, he gets really excited sometimes. Or if mommy's sleeping and she won't wake up, he will try everything first. But if I still ignore him, he will just gently, and it doesn't hurt. It's just a little bit of a surprise. He'll put his teeth on my arm and be like, hey, or any other body part. He's bit my butt before. Little toad. So, yeah.
Well, who doesn't?
Well, that's true. That's true. So that's kind of exciting. I have some possible jobs coming up, which is exciting.
That is exciting.
Mm-hmm. We need some extra cash, so
we do.
I'm going to be doing some part-time work, which is unexciting but perfectly serviceable. And I wanted to say auditioning for a job, taking some tests for a full-time job. Which I was
talking to someone who had basically had to audition for a job. Like, they do a web form thing and a one-way like Skype interview, and then the next step is basically an audition where you go in and you and 10 other people are looking for the job. And I'm like, how friggin' demoralizing is it that that's how work works now?
Dance for me? Yeah, well, Blockbuster used to call their interview process an audition, but it wasn't like that.
But that's cute, because they're the video industry and whatever.
They wanted people to be able to be outgoing.
And they didn't have a casting couch, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so yeah. So hopefully a little extra cash coming in that will make things a little less stressful, which will be nice.
Speaking of auditions, that kind of runs into the news article we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I have two kind of news articles, so we're going to start...
So we talked in our outro last week, for those who don't listen past the credits, about the Harvey Weinstein situation.
Yes.
I didn't want to put it in the main episode because it didn't feel like it fit there, but I wanted to say something about that. So if you didn't listen, you can go back and listen to that. But it's become such a big, major thing now that we wanted to sort of cover a little bit of it here because, let's be honest, the whole environment of the conversation about consent, this was also brought up to me from a friend today, came from the kink community. The BDSM community were the first people who really started talking about consent seriously in a conversational way. Yeah. And then that bled into vanilla culture, and that's probably one of the greatest things that this community has done for anyone, everywhere, is talk about consent and how consent is important. And I likened it to the conversation about how, the difference between a woman... The conversation about, well, a woman will walk down the beach in a string bikini, but you peek in her in a washroom and she gets all offended. And that argument was always stupid and wrong. But until we got the language of this is not about view, this is about consent.
Yeah.
That's what really helps to give... body to that whole realm of thought.
It also helps people to properly understand. Now, with
puts it in a context.
Yeah, with this Weinstein thing, you're looking at a man of great power and influence who is choosing to use his stature to
take advantage
and do what he chooses, what pleases him, and it's
regardless of how it affects other people.
It's disgusting. Now, the little update that we wanted to talk about, because we do love to feature people who I love when people that I've always admired do things that I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
Did you want to talk at all about the post that you found from the man we both enjoy and follow? No?
That's what I'm talking about right now? You're talking about Kevin Smith?
No. I was talking about the around the what's the campaign? The Me Too campaign.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry we're a little jiggled here, but we're kind of we haven't discussed this. We just knew we wanted to we've been investigating these things separately, knew we wanted to talk. Jim Beaver, who played Bobby Singer on Supernatural and has done a jillion other things. He's just such a wonderful actor.
He presents as that really good old boy bluegrass kind of personality, but he's and I shouldn't say but, because that's the whole problem with stereotypes. He is a very well-spoken and intelligent human being, full
of compassion, and he's such a kind man. He's also a very feeling man, He posted today
depths of emotion.
Something to the effect of, why is it that you can get 12,000 people telling you you've done this thing wonderfully, and one person criticizing it, and that's all you hear? Come on, Mother Nature, work with me.
That's how it works for writers all the time.
Yeah. So anyways, back to the context of this. Yesterday, there was the #MeToo hashtag campaign, in which women were speaking up if they have encountered sexual violence or that kind of power struggle, any of that kind of thing, the inappropriateness.
Yeah.
And it was overwhelming. I hashtagged out of our account because it's happened to me. And it was just such an overwhelming thing to see this flood from people you never ever would have thought, like my friends, my family. You just don't know, because it's something you just don't really talk about.
Yeah.
And
that was the point of the campaign.
Of the whole thing. And he came up and said, I'm completely my heart breaks because my inbox is just flooded with all of this. And while I don't feel comfortable joining the hashtag Me Too, it happened to him as well when he was in the military. And he said, thankfully, even though I was naive at the beginning, I was able to get out of it. But I hate to think what would have happened if situations hadn't changed and I had to tell on, an admiral when I am nobody. And he said, so I completely understand how this can happen. And he ended the whole thing because he's like, what do I, as a male, who, yes, it absolutely happens to men so often, we don't hear about that either. And he's saying, but what else can I do besides saying, me too? And he said, you know what? I believe you. And to me, that was like, yeah, that's really awesome.
And it's hard on that level for me whenever something like this starts in a women's majority movement. I feel like my voice doesn't belong.
A lot of men have said that and have asked, okay, this is how I'm feeling. How can you help me not feel like this? Like, how do I fit into this?
Yeah. How do we help?
Yeah. And for the most part, people are saying, you know what? Tell your story.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. That's positive. That feels good. It's just not what I'm used to getting.
Tell your story and support other people. So the Kevin Smith part of this was the other part that I wanted to talk about. I don't know how much people pay attention to credits when movies roll, but
if you're a Kevin Smith fan,
you probably know that the Weinstein Company, has been, in his early career, the ones who produced most everything. Yeah. So Kevin Smith posted today on his Facebook, probably, and talked about the fact that he didn't know any of this was going on. This is a man that he considered, kind of like a father. And every time he talked about his early career, he talked about this man who took a chance on him.
And we're talking about Harvey Weinstein here.
Yeah.
And I completely believe him because I can picture that relationship as Harvey Weinstein was also a man in a powerful position who could do things for people and make careers happen, and who had money to throw at this stupid kid from
New Jersey,
who just wanted to make a movie. And he did, and he made Kevin Smith successful.
Yeah.
Almost, single-handedly just by funding.
Yeah. And so Kevin goes on to talk about how he himself hasn't experienced any of this stuff in the industry because, for whatever reason, and it's not just because he's a man, because men do experience this, he's just managed to not be in a position where this has been a thing for him.
Yeah.
He says, but, how do I not feel horrible? And people are saying it's not your fault. He's like, no, okay, fine, it's not my fault. I couldn't have spoken about something I didn't know about. But what can I do now? Because right now, he was in tears, and it's, he's like, it's breaking my heart. This is a person I thought I knew, but I don't know. Some people are saying, well, you should give back the money. And he's like, do you still have the money that you had 20 years ago?
And I have something to say on that score, too, because that is not only completely naive, but I think a wrong way of thinking, in that just because of the source of the money was a bad man, I mean, he doesn't poison that entire company. You know,
Yeah.
There are probably thousands of people working for the Weinstein Company. Just because Harvey Weinstein is the guy who signed off on Kevin Smith's movies does not mean that he is in any way
The only one involved in things?
the only one responsible for that money, you know?
Now, that's being said, if Kevin had known something was going on and he took the money, to me, that would be a different thing. But he had no idea.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's in any way beholden, but he still feels like he should do something. So
And I would too.
Yeah. So what he's chosen to do is, thanks to the way Hollywood works, and you get your initial money from your film, but then you get residuals every year. So what he's decided to do is take all of the residuals
What they used to call royalties. And...
Yeah, from Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and so on. He's going to donate them to a non-profit called Women in Film that helps women coming up in the industries to achieve their dreams. He's also offered, because, you know, he thinks that probably this is going to affect people watching his films too because of this. So he's decided to give an additional $2,000 a month for the rest of his life to this organization. Just
A month? I think you mean a year.
A month.
You told me a year.
I didn't say it right. This is a direct quote from him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, you know, he's looking at $24,000 a year.
Well, it must be nice to have that kind of money.
Yeah, but I mean, I respect that. And,
yes.
you know, being able to help women who, in a way that's going to be safe for them.
I respect the hell out of him. And I think, what I say last night, Kevin Smith is my favorite Hollywood hack.
Yeah. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But, so that was kind of interesting. That was that little follow-up. And the other thing, because we also are a geek-centric podcast, and mental health is very near and dear to both of our hearts, because we've both suffered with diagnosed depression and anxiety.
Can I mention one more thing before we pass the topics? I wanted to just talk about the fact that this Harvey Weinstein thing has affected people in other ways too.
Okay, how's that?
In that when something like this happens, there is an understandable outrage, but that outrage has been kind of like the people who say Kevin Smith should give all the money back, you know? Misdirected rage can be very dangerous to people who have nothing to do with anything that you're mad at. It's the same kind of thing as racism when something happens in the news. But who is the actor?
Oh, Harvey Fierstein.
Harvey Fierstein.
Okay.
Not Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, and I could have predicted that this was going to happen, because when I heard Weinstein's name, I immediately pictured Harvey Fierstein, who you guys may know him. He was in The Birdcage. No, he was in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Was he?
Yeah, he played his mother, or his sister,
Oh yeah,
his brother
the
who does
gay
the
brother.
makeup. Yeah. He has that deep, gravelly voice. He's a really great actor. He's a Tony Award-winning Broadway actor. And he has been the target of a lot of mistargeted abuse because his name is similar. People think it's him.
Yeah, and just that, it wraps all into the misplaced rage and fake news sort of thing. You have to be careful about where you're directing your outrage when these things happen.
Absolutely. You should check and double check and triple check before you.
Because that poor man.
Yeah. Can you imagine? He's going, no?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
So,
anyway, I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was something that I brought to you that I was like,
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on briefly, well, as briefly as I can with this big long note, we really like to offer people any sort of utilities that might help them. So I found one in an unusual place that ties our love of geeky fandoms to something like mental health, which is something we talk about a lot in the BDSM community, most likely because we just talk a lot more openly.
Yeah.
So there's a TV show that most people will be familiar with. We just mentioned it a moment ago, Supernatural. It's one of my favorite shows. And I had heard that Jared Padalecki, who plays Sam Winchester, one of the two leads, has suffered from depression for quite a long time. It's been very severe. He's struggled very hard. But I read an article yesterday, and it kind of really clarifies what it is that he and his castmates are doing to make a positive footprint on the world, which is amazing. Now, you and I have spoken before about Misha Collins, who plays Castiel, who has his own foundation to try to help people. It's called Random Acts, and they do all sorts of things. It started off as just that. People performing random acts, and it has grown to $1 million.
And that's random acts of kindness.
Yeah, to a $1 million kind of fundraising campaign to help different things. So basically, this story is through the lens of a couple of fans, starting with this one woman who had left her home to escape an abusive relationship with her father and found herself in her car, in her van. A friend lent her Netflix account so she could, watch on her phone or whatever. And she started watching Supernatural, and it gave her something to do, something to watch. And later on, she had finally, gone to live with her aunt. Things were a little more stable. And then things started to fall apart again. Work was not a great place for her, and she just felt like, that's it. I just can't do this anymore. She went home and found mail and forgotten she had ordered a t-shirt from a thing that Jared was doing. And it's a t-shirt that says, always keep fighting. It's his kind of, call to arms for people to rail against depression and to try, just to keep trying.
Yeah.
And it was enough that she was like, you know what? I'm going to keep doing this. And she was able to go to a con a little later down the road, and she got to meet him and tell him how getting that shirt saved her life. And he said, this is what the quote is: Jared gave me the biggest hug and told me, always keep fighting because you're worth it. You are worth everything. Every little breath you take, you are worth it. If you promise me that you will always keep fighting, we will always be there for you.
That's nice.
So it's awesome. And, they talk about how the show at its core is a story about family and the different kinds of love and the different kinds of family. So you can kind of understand why people are so passionate about it.
It's funny, this show, because I was the same before I started watching it, as people who I have talked to about Supernatural who have never watched it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it's another one of those uber fandom shows, which it is. And the fans get super involved in it, and it's probably not as good as they think it is. Mm-hmm. And they're probably right. But there are a reason that these shows become what they become. Star Trek was the first of its kind to have sort of that inclusiveness message around their conventions. Doctor Who crafted several generations of English youth, and Supernatural is, it's not like a male centric, but it's a buddy comedy soap. So it strikes that emotional balance along with everything else that it does. But it really does have the actors shining through as the real people who have goodness. And they put their own personal time and energy behind that.
Yeah. And so what they've done is they've created something called the Family Crisis Support Network. And it's a community support system that individuals can turn to for help with dealing with mental health issues. So it's founded by Jared Padalecki, Misha Collins, and Jensen Ackles, the 3 stars. It's under the umbrella of Misha Collins' not-for-profit Random Acts, and is partnered with To Write Love on Her Arms, I Am Alive, and Pulp Culture Hero Coalition. And what they're doing is they're providing training opportunities for volunteers who want to be crisis responders. And so I will link all the information where you can reach out if you need to talk. And here's something that I found really cool, is it's not just by telephone. You can text. So if you're like, I'm not calling a crisis line, I'm not talking to somebody I don't know, you can text. It goes on to talk about another woman who called, went onto the hotline and meets other fans, and they get assistance, and they're saying, we're here for you. No matter where you are, we'll be there for you. People who will stay on the phone with you forever. And it's just such a nice thing to have people that, first of all, you have something in common with. You have this starting platform where you both like the show. Even if you don't, though, it's still really cool. But if you do, it gives you something in common with these people. And it's just another place for people to feel like they're connecting.
Now, this has a few of the hallmarks of something that conventional wisdom tells us is a little dangerous.
What's that?
It sounds like a good vehicle for codependency and inexpert help.
These are all trained people, though, who they'll be talking to. They all have to go through the same thing, like that 911 people need to, or crisis counselors need to go through.
I just wanted to make that clear, because if you're coming from the outside and hearing about this, it raises those red flags.
These are all people who will be trained, who have been or will be before they are to do it. That's the whole thing, is that they're trained volunteers who give of their time to help other people, which I think is super cool. And they're getting a life skill out of it too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of cool. So those were kind of the newsy things that we had. We talked a little longer because they're quite personal in some ways.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad we got the opportunity to kind of talk about it. So But moving on. Next.
Yes.
It's almost NaNoWriMo time.
What is it?
Almost.
It's what, the 18th day?
Yeah,
17th?
17th.
Oh boy.
So
we have some work to do.
Yes, but we have some exciting ideas this year. We are going to be working on a book together.
Well, we did that once before.
But this is much different. We are working on a nonfiction book.
A nonfiction book, you say?
A nonfiction book, I say.
He acts like he's never had any part of this.
He acts like he hasn't spent the last few days listening to old episodes of our podcast.
Yeah, so I think we mentioned at the top that we had been listening to old episodes of Kink Geek and looking at ways of refreshing and adding more content to the show. And part of the reason that we started doing that is because we needed to see what ground we had already covered.
Yes.
And the reason for that is that this year, during NaNoWriMo, we intend to take the Kink Geek concept literally.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
I just came up with it right now.
Well done.
So we have both won NaNoWriMo 3 years. You didn't last year compete. You had decided to take a look at your short stories instead. Yes,
but I did it in the summer instead.
Right.
So I did have one.
So 3 years running, we have both won Nanos. Nothing has yet come of those books, but those are other things that we're looking at for future review. But this year, we have decided to take a crack at nonfic and do a Kink Geek philosophy book to really bring the show's philosophy to a what would you call it? Not a step-by-step, but a guide.
We'll kind of cover a lot of what we've talked about over the last 4 or so years, but in a more linear fashion, and kind of add newer stuff to it. And we're going to be looking for new research for any of the sciencey stuff and
update our information.
Yeah, and we just want to be able to give people something, in
good information
book form.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be lots of personal stuff and some fun stuff. There'll probably be some pictures involved somewhere in there.
Reference guide, kind of.
Yeah, so that's what we're kind of looking at doing, and I'm very excited about the idea.
Me too.
So that's
we've been
fun.
talking about doing this for a while, and then we were like, what are we going to do for Nano? And I was like, oh.
Yeah, because I'd come to you and said, hey, what do you think of this idea? Now, for those who don't know, I'm sure you've heard us talk about Nano before, but Nanowrimo is National Novel Writing Month. In November, the goal is to write 50,000 words in a single piece of writing. Mm-hmm. So we've done it 3 times in a row. I have 3 novels, with the exception of one not quite done.
And I have 3 novels half finished.
Yeah. But so we thought this was the perfect opportunity.
Now, this happens in November every year, and for our American listeners, you'll know that is where you have your Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we Canadians don't have to deal with that.
Nope. Already did it.
One of the things that does cause us a little bit of trouble in NaNoWriMo, during NaNoWriMo, is that November is Desert Bus Month.
Right, which is, tell them what Desert Bus is if they don't know.
Desert Bus for Hope is a charity put on by fellow Canucks Loading Ready Run out of Victoria, BC. Mm-hmm. And they play the worst video game in the world until people no longer pay them to do so.
Mm-hmm. They make... how much did they make last year?
Over the course of their 10 years, they have made $3.5 million for charity. Mm-hmm. And the charity is... I can't remember what it is.
Is it Child's Play?
Child's Play. Mm-hmm. That provides video games and educational tools to children in hospitals. Basically, giving them something not to be bored, and also helping to improve people's lives. Because we should link the Extra Credits episode on why games matter, because we can show that video games have improved people's sight, people's hearing, people's social skills. And there's really good opportunities for video games to be involved in children's therapies. But it really started as a way of just being a kid in a hospital sucks.
Yeah.
So Child's Play was there to give a Game Boy to a kid who's in the hospital, or whatever, but just make that time a little less glim.
And it's a really fun event because they're playing for 24 hours a day for however many days they play for, and they do skits and they do ridiculousness, and it's just a lot of fun. And
they do a lot of giveaways and charity drives and things,
so we love to get involved with that, but writing, but
we will have it on in the background.
So this brings us to kind of our last topic, but kind of our main topic here.
Yeah, it was going to be. We'll see
how far in we get. But so something happens when you go back and listen to the personal content that you've created, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we'd only been dating for a year at that point. We'd only been together for about a year. And listening to those first 4 or 5 podcasts, we both were like, whoa. First of all, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
Second of all, a lot of things have changed. And I don't mean not for the better. I just mean life gets in the way sometimes.
But a lot of things have just fallen by the wayside because the last place we were in was not conducive to our lifestyle.
Yeah.
So we didn't get a lot of personal development done there.
No.
And between going back and listening to our old episodes and really feeling the fire of the early days and being in this new space, which is completely us. I was talking to friends today and they asked how the move was. And I'm like, it feels like home. And they were like, wow, we've been here 5 years and this doesn't feel like home because this is temporary. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's half about the space and how you use it and how it works with your life.
I'm so in love with this place.
Yeah, this is us. The perfect place for us, I think.
Yeah. So we realized that now's the perfect opportunity to get back some of that BDSM stuff that we just have let fall away for whatever reason, be it life or space or a combination of all of it.
And we've talked about this, and we can talk more about that. This does happen. I mean, everything in human life comes in sort of an oscillation of intensity.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that maybe some people who don't do BDSM 24/7, what might surprise them is that the intensity and the amount can change and wane over the course of years. And it really does take effort to actually have to sit down and be like, okay, neither one of us are entirely happy with where things are sitting here. We would like something else. So let's make an absolute effort to do so, which is what we're going to do.
Yeah. So we've decided to sit down on the air, as we did before, and discuss our arrangement and how that will fit into this new space.
Cool.
So, did you do your homework?
I didn't have much homework to do because I'm not the one who has to make up the rules.
Oh, sweetie. You know better.
I have done a lot of thinking.
For our listeners out there who think that it's all the Dom's job to make the rules and it's just the sub's job to follow them, you should know that communication and accommodation
absolutely
are two important parts of a BDSM relationship, especially a 24/7 one. So, I have to say, we do have rules in place.
Oh, yeah.
And you haven't been the best at following them.
I haven't. What rules are we talking about?
We're talking about you texting me when you get up in the morning.
Oh, that's true.
You've been 2 days running that you've been fairly good, but...
Yeah, before that was not an excuse, but I mean, a lot of the stuff, there has been understandable reasons why things have not been as tight as they have.
Excuses are often understandable.
Funny. That is true. Go ahead, continue.
You don't want to continue to try to worm your way out of it?
Oh, I'm not. I don't have to try to continue. You know darn well. I mean, certain things are just not...
So, the last 2 days, you've been getting up at 7:30.
Yep.
In the morning.
Yep.
And you've been letting me know that you're up.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
I know.
Have you gone for a walk?
I've exercised instead.
You've exercised
because my
instead?
back has been...
Because it's getting cool outside?
No, I love the cool. But with the move, I've had a lot of problems with my back.
You have. It's
so
true.
I have to be careful with what kind of exercise I'm doing right now.
My knees have been feeling it.
Yeah. So for me, it was some yoga and some ballet stretches and stuff like that.
Okay. That's a good start.
I thought so.
Now, as far as food goes, you've been fairly good with that. But not having your phone on you is not an excuse. That's an issue.
When have I not had my phone on me?
Not recently, but it has happened where I left my phone at home. What am I going to do? And I have to tell you, in future, that's probably going to mean you don't get to eat.
I see. Now, that said, we need to have room for... there are times when we're not expecting to go somewhere. If my phone's dead, which has happened, you've had to borrow my charger and my phone's died.
Yes, absolutely.
So those are times when, because the way we work, I'm assuming that before we do eat, we can be like, okay, so here is the current issue. How do we deal with this?
When it's a case like that, sure. When it's a case of you don't want to walk back to the shop to get your phone, too bad. Tough
Fair
luck.
enough.
You're with me so far?
Absolutely.
Okay. You're giving me that grin.
It's my uncomfortable grin.
Oh, your uncomfortable grin.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit yesterday about how the rules should work at this new place. And what new rules we want to have in place.
Yes.
And we're going to go away and think about it and come back and discuss it. So did you think about it?
Yes.
All right. What have you thought?
I have thought about having kind of a structure in place for upkeep of the house, where I can still get help from you with the things that are either taxing or above and beyond the normal care of things. But like every morning I've been getting up and making the bed. And it feels really good at night to crawl into a bed and not have... It does. Because Salem doesn't generally try to get under the blankets like Nietzsche did.
It helps that it's a smaller bed and it's a cleaner room.
It's an easier space to work, so...
And that's sort of what we were talking about when the old space just didn't quite work for us. We were living around another person, too.
Yeah, which is difficult.
This is our space and we can do with it what we like.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've always been throw back the blankets and let's go. Whereas most of my life, I've always been make the bed before you leave the room in the morning. Mm-hmm. So for me, that adds some structure and adds a lack of stress to my life, because when I walk by the bedroom, I'm like, oh, look, the bed's made. It looks really nice. So things like that.
Structure means less stress. I'm going to write that down. Mm-hmm. Except I'm not going to use this pen because it's not working.
How about this one?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This pen is red.
Yeah. I don't know that I have another pen. Wait.
Black or blue?
Try that one.
Thank you.
Aha, there you go.
Nope, failure. Oh well.
And it died.
It's fine.
Try number 3.
There we go.
Aha.
Continue.
And it didn't die. That's the big one for me.
So you need more structure.
I would
on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for me that way.
Okay.
We need to talk at the beginning of the week about food every week. I need you to be cognizant of what I mean when I say I can't have sugar except this day and this day. I need you to understand.
That's Wednesday and Saturday?
Or Sunday, depending which day we choose to do it.
Wednesday and the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Because I need you to understand that means fruit juice or, because sometimes you'll be like, have this. And I'm like, it's full of sugar. And you're like, oh, dope. Right.
Anything that's saturated in sugar.
Yeah. Anything with added sugar. Because for me, when
no Honey Nut Cheerios.
No. For me, when I'm really feeling like I want something I'm not supposed to have, I will let it go and I'll be like, okay, cool, he said I can have it, so I can have it. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I need.
Okay.
I need to be better at that. I need to feel like we're being just tighter in things in general. You have a thing where you like to make me happy.
I do. That's my greatest downfall as a dominant structure individual.
Yeah, and the thing is, if I'm not restricting my food, my other big problem is eating
way too much and the wrong sort of stuff.
Sugar or takeout, and that's been a big problem lately. And
well, it's not going to be a big problem in the coming days. We're a little lean on.
Yeah, but I need you to be better at making things a treat instead of an everyday thing.
Okay. All right.
That kind of thing.
That's something that I definitely need to work on because I, too, like food. Mm-hmm. I need to, I think, personally, be a little less sensitive to what could be considered mean or harsh treatment, because just because I get something doesn't mean that you need to have it necessarily. Yeah,
but I also need to be sure that you understand how my eating disorder works, mm-hmm. and to be sensitive around that. If you choose to have a chocolate bar, to not do it in a manner that makes me feel like I am being punished denied or left out or whatever, that kind of thing. Just be aware of triggers, which you generally are. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one of the only rules that we agreed on before about this space specifically mm-hmm. is regarding my office. Mm-hmm. We remember going back to knocking at the bottom of the stairs before entering.
Old place, yeah.
And that's going to be basically my office is my domain. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be in there when I'm not in there, it's going to be for some sort of service. Either you're going to be collecting laundry or putting something on my desk or mm-hmm. whatever. then you need to be respectful of my space. And if I am in there, then you need to wait for permission and be cognizant of my attention. Okay?
Absolutely.
Don't cover your mouth. People can't hear you if you're covering your mouth.
I know. It's okay. So now is the time for honesty. This is hard for me right now because it's been so long since I've had any sort of. My voice is fine like that. I'm all peaky. It's been so long since I've had anything like this.
Any regular structure?
Or anything else that it feels a little uncomfortable. It's that little rebelling, don't tell me what to do. Like, treat me like an equal. But it's not.
But you are my equal.
I know.
I just get to tell you what to do.
I know. But, so, for those of you out there who ever encounter this, I hope somebody else does too, because otherwise I feel terrible. But it's a conscious decision, it's a choice. But it doesn't come without a little bit of a struggle sometimes, especially when it's been so long.
Is it still what you want?
Yeah, absolutely.
You answered a little quickly there. I want you to take a second and think about that.
I've been thinking about it for the last 2 days.
Okay.
Believe me, I've been thinking about it.
I believe you. I wanted to make sure that you let our listeners know that that wasn't a snap decision.
Fair enough. I wouldn't have agreed to do this on air if it wasn't something that I was decisive about.
That's fair.
But it's one of those things that needs practice, you know? It's going to take getting used to again. So.
Yeah.
So sorry if I interrupted at all, but I just thought it helps other people to know where I am.
I'm not one of those doms who's, I don't want to say insecure, but bothered by interruptions.
I know.
I like a creative flow of discourse.
That's true.
It's more important to me than absolute respect.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on?
So what I think I need to do is come up with a daily schedule, basically, and not just the couple of points that we discussed, but you need a routine, and I think I need to lay down that routine.
Okay.
So I'm going to work with you on how your morning normally goes, which means for the next few days, you're going to have to be more talkative with me in the morning about what you're doing immediately after getting up.
Okay.
Because I tend to get the good morning text, and then 20 to 40 minutes later, you're finally ready to have a phone call or
because generally what happens is I get up, I stretch, I make the bed, I take a shower to put heat on my shoulders, and then I do some sort of exercise. Then I put the kettle on and we talk.
Sounds like a pretty good start. At the old house, that was all happening between 9 and 10 o'clock.
No. When I moved, when there was more sleep available and I was doing 7:30, then it was going from like that, all of that stuff usually took from between 7:30 and 9-ish. Yeah,
but you dropped into the waking up at 9.
Yeah, when we were going through all of the moving stuff and all of that, it's just, I have insomnia. I don't sleep well. And sometimes I just need to get the sleep that I need to get when I can get it, which is difficult.
If it becomes an issue again, we need to look at you getting to bed earlier.
And that's the problem, is that doesn't often help. I mean, this is a whole probably other podcast, but it's just I can lie there all night long and just not fall asleep. It's very frustrating. But again, another topic for another conversation. So. Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add to the conversation?
Not yet. I like that you say work with you. Because here's the thing. I am very good at structuring things. I mean, I structure the podcasts. I usually structure how we work our time and then say, does this work for you? I'm good at that kind of managerial stuff. So it's good for me to hear, I'm going to give you a schedule, but I'm going to work with you.
My opinion of a healthy 24/7 relationship hasn't changed much over the years. I believe in mentorship and almost parenting more than a strict authoritarian regime. And the reason for that is not that that's not fun, but it's not functional when you're trying to be equal partners with someone. If you were the kind of submissive who was interested in being property, then that might work. But we have this project together. We have other projects together. You have projects of your own that need time and attention. And that's the manner of our relationship.
Yeah. It's what works for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. One thing that I do want to reiterate as a rule is I want a cup of tea when I get home.
Okay. Sure.
We should have tea time. There needs to be... I want to fashion a proper British household with tea time.
I like it.
I'm going to have to find some low sugar scones.
I was just going to say sugar-free scones.
Yeah.
Can we talk in British accents too?
Probably not.
Damn it. All right. Fine.
Have to be decently respectful to the English language.
Hey,
And
I'm good with accents.
As we know, the British accent is an abomination.
I love it. It's great.
I love it too, but it's not accurate English.
Anyways, that's a whole other topic of conversation. Maybe we should have another podcast. No. We have enough going on.
We need to stop thinking of new projects until we get
The ones we
these
have
projects
going,
sorted.
Yes. So.
But I think that's it for the conversation for now. We'll probably revisit this on a podcast in this next month. Because we did some of the planning today, but the execution is going to be over the next couple of weeks. So, unless there's anything else.
Nope.
Thank you to our listeners, you lovely people, and thank you for your support via our Patreon at patreon.com/kinkgeek. As little as $1 a month could help us immensely with production quality, production of new projects, production of all sorts of added content, and also let us know that you care. Also, you can always get a hold of us on Twitter at geeksofkink, on Facebook /geeksofkink, and at our new forum, which I haven't memorized the address for, but link is in the show notes. That's on FetLife.
Yes, and my little pitch is if you would be so kind as to give us a review on iTunes. It really helps us out. Or even at least give us, a starred rating. That would be great.
Or Stitcher, Spreaker, Podcast Addict, all those good places.
Wherever you find us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for
And
listening.
we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Boy, that podcast sure did sound good.
Did it? Sound good? That's something.
Hey, Tams.
Yeah?
What's that you got there?
This? Come here.
No, maybe that should wait till next week.
Oh.
How does that sound?
Oh, yeah. So join us next week when our topic will be...
Sounding? Thank you for joining us this week. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Just a quick reminder that Kink Geek and everything we do is supported by you, our fantastic listeners, via our Patreon. Visit patreon.com and consider becoming a patron for access to all of our bonus content. See you next time. Hello, all our lovely listeners out there in podcast land. internetlings. All you wonderful kink geeks.
Are you done?
I don't know. You want to get a word in?
I'd like to. Hi, everyone. How's it going?
Hi, Tams.
Hi.
Welcome to episode 87 of Kink Geek.
Take 3.